it was literally like being in a sort of a dream. After I'd witnessed it myself, we had a meeting with the BPOS and we decided to conduct a full-scale investigation into the entity at Highgate Cemetery. And the first thing we decided to do was to check out the cemetery's history, and some interesting things really turned up. We found that a figure had been reported back in the the early 19th century, at the end of the 18th century, and again it was described as a tall, dark figure, but this time it used to disappear mysteriously through the cemetery wall.
So all of these allegedly true cases of vampire, like the Highgate vampire, are going towards making a very powerful and attractive image for those people interested in the occult. But what I didn't realise was how many people are interested in the occult, how many people are interested in vampires. I didn't realise there was such a big scene in London, for example. I went up there the other week to...
And we went along to one of their do's, and the Dracula Society is more an academic thing. There's a lot of literary professors and people who know Bram Stoker's Dracula, the book, inside out. And although it was okay, it wasn't really what I was looking for. And then one day I was down at Forbidden Planet, the shop in Tottenham Court Road, and I come across this book, this magazine, this fanzine, called The Velvet Vampire, which was the fanzine of what was then called the Vampire Society. And I flicked through it, and inside was a photograph of the members out on one of their picnics at Highgate Cemetery or something, all dressed up in all the fine, all like very gothed up with lace and velvet and frilly shirts and stuff. And I thought, these are the people I want to hang out with. These people look really cool.
Yeah, a lot of people come along expecting us to actually think we are vampires or think vampires exist, and then find it really odd when we go, no, you'd have to be really mad to think that. I think they have this set idea of someone who's going to sleep all day and only go out at night and say, oh no, I'm so pale, or actually try and drink blood or sleep in coffins, which you might do if you pass out drunk, but probably not your first choice of bed. There's a lot of stigma attached to it. People will just assume you're going to be some mass murdering wannabe vampire. Then they come along, and we've had so many people come along, even people we just picked up from downstairs in the pub, who said, what is going on up there? Seen everyone traipse up, come in for the night and gone away thinking, yeah, really good people, then actually come back again.
It gets popular every time a film comes out. So every time there's a vampire film, or with the popularity of Buffy, then the popularity rises, such as, you know, when Dracula came out, when Interview with the Vampire came out, people become interested in it. Although, you know, a lot of people are interested in the books, they necessarily wouldn't go as far as dressing up and getting into the scene that way. They may enjoy it, but, you know, the trends go up and down, you know, with whatever's at the cinema.
The other events we do, some of them are more structured or themed, or we do quiz nights. We've done a ghost walk recently, trips to the theatre, trips to the ballet, because the Northern Ballet Company's doing a horror season, doing Jekyll and Hyde and Dracula.
But, I mean, for me it's the clothes, really, and the history of it. I mean, I love getting dressed up in period clothes, and just going out and having a laugh, really.
We're a good crowd. We are nice people, and I mean, a lot of my social life revolves around the Vampire Connection and the LVG as well. And there's quite a lot of us. And I mean, I like dress. I mean, I'm a bit sort of more staid tonight, a bit contemporary. But I've got fancy shirts and fancy waistcoats and period costumes and towel coats and top hats and this sort of stuff.
I enjoy the romanticism of them, and I enjoy dressing up. I mean, who wouldn't enjoy dressing up in sort of Victorian dress? We're going to a masquerade ball over the weekend, and I'm going to be in complete Victorian dress. You know, it sort of indulges the actor in everyone, that we get to dress up and act out a part every time we become this character.
Because the scene is very limited, like the vampire goth, whatever you want to call it, scene is very limited, so everyone is quite friendly. If one person's doing something, people come to that. I mean, we did a Halloween party and we had people travel down from Scotland for it.
It's just a sense of fun, a chance to meet other people. But in that respect, I can respect that because they're not actually believing it themselves. I think the problem comes in when you do get people that actually take it too far. They not only dress up as vampires, but they actually start to believe they are vampires. There are even groups of people extreme groups that actually drink blood, which I'm very much opposed to.
There's people that mix up what a vampire actually is, and there's people that don't. I get a lot of people writing to me who drink blood as a social sort of adventure, mainly in America, strangely. There are a lot of clubs for blood drinking and self-abuse and scarring and all fun with razor blades. There's a lot of self-mutilation and blood drinking as part of a big social scene. So someone will go to a club, they'll slice their arms up with razor blades, and they'll let each, other people in the club drink their blood, and they'll do the same to them.
Tim go, vampires, goth, fetish. And then he goes to blood fetish and strange things like that, which we try and distance ourselves from as much as possible.
A lot of people come along thinking it's going to be S&M, orgies, the works, and I think they're disappointed when they get there and they see everyone sitting around having a drink. Yeah. I mean, people, especially at work, if I tell them I'm into this, they're intrigued, but they kind of think you're mad at the same time because they don't understand it.
Yeah, when I first joined the vampire group I was 17, and we do it and a lot of the other ones do. If you're under 18 and you want to join the group, you have to get a parent's signature, so we can say you knew what your kid was coming along to, you know he's into something to do with vampires. It's nothing dodgy, but you can't then turn around and say, what have you been doing to my child? Because parents are naturally protective.
I don't drink blood, I don't sleep in a coffin.
I mean, I suppose a lot of people are just like the image as a whole. They think it's very romantic to have this eternal being come along and give you the gift of eternal life. But I think most people, they're into the films, they're into the clothes, and this is just a place where you can go and discuss them and not have people look at you like you're insane.
It's just a nice crowd to hang out with, and I really enjoy it. I mean, we go out, we go to parties, we have functions, we go to do's, and we're also in demand. Whenever there's a new vampire film coming out or anything like that, we always get, will you come along to the premiere? Will you come and make the place look good? And we turn heads, people take photographs. It's good fun.
People that are generally into anything unusual are more friendly to people that are into something else unusual, because you know the stick you get for it. Yeah. So goths, vamps, pagans, fetish people, occultists, anyone will generally get on with each other better, because you don't go, ooh, you're into that, you're strange, because you haven't done to you.
I really didn't know what to expect, and I was so pleasantly surprised because there's so much presumption and prejudice that surrounds this sort of thing. But it's all about individuality. It's just the same as liking Shakespeare or Star Trek, and it is such a big scene now that there's people ranging into the commercial side of it. You can get jewellery, you can get coffins, you can even get cosmetic fangs.
I can actually claim to be, and this is essentially conceited, but it is true. I was the first. I've been a member on the vampire scene now for about 6 years, and I was the very, very first person to have a pair of prosthetic fangs, because I had a friend who's a dental technician who made them for me. Up to that point, you couldn't get them. You could buy them in trick shops, joke shops and plastic things, but to actually have them custom made.
Yeah, so I've always had an interest in Hammer films, and my mother and father say that stems from the fact that the vicar that christened me looked like Christopher Lee as Count Dracula. But I got interested in that, and then went on from there to learn special effects, and then combined the two, so like I say about 2 years ago, to create fangs for the vampire scene, because it's something I was interested in. Made a pair for myself. Other people then asked me where I got them made, and it went from there.
But they're very effective. You're going to ask me to take them out now, aren't you?
Oh, go on.
What I did was I washed off.
They're 4 individual cats.
And are they comfortable to wear?
Extremely comfortable. I mean, they're so well made. They just can stay there, you know. So I can either wear, I can wear the 2 outside ones, or I can wear the 2 inside ones, or I can wear all 4 of them together. And I think all 4 of them together looks the best.
Yeah.
all you have to do is, once you start wearing them, is try not lisping. It's not easy.
Yeah, so, you know, every set of fangs, rather than, it's not a job to me, so I enjoy doing it. So each set of fangs is a work of art, and it's individually designed for each person and what they want. Lenses are more a stock item. I sell lots of different colours, red, white, black, anything that people are after really. And sort of coffins and the jewellery and the clothing is kind of a new part, but I've got my own website and it's going quite well, because there is no one that does what I do. But within the scene, there's lots of dentists that will make fangs, but they don't like doing it. It's kind of a like under the counter, they don't enjoy doing it, and they charge a fortune, and I'm quite cheap.
The best reaction I ever had was a while ago. I was incapacitated. I had a walking stick. I injured my hip, and I was coming to one of the meetings, and I was on a bus. And as I went to sit down on the bus, I dropped my walking stick, and sitting opposite there was a woman with a child, two small children. And as I sat down, the little girl jumped up and picked the stick up and handed it back to me. And without thinking, I went, "Thank you." And I smiled at her, and she went, "Oh." And for the rest of the journey, she just sat there staring at me like this, nudging her brother and whispering. And he was looking at this. And then before I got off, I smiled at them both, and the expression on their face was just priceless.
People mock or are scared of what they don't understand. So I hope that I've succeeded to enlighten you about vampires and the preconceptions people have about them. One question, however, I couldn't answer was why vampires? Why are people so fascinated with vampires? So I challenged other people to answer this.
A, they're cool. B, they're sexy. C, I don't need the C because the A and the B were so good.
It's probably the idea of actually having that much time on your hands that would just be interesting to be able to see that much. But I've always been more interested.
I think basically the answer to that could be that everybody, maybe even not consciously but unconsciously, is looking for a meaning to life. They don't want a meaning to life. They don't want to accept death. And a vampire is a sort of a glamorized image which attracts people, especially the young. It sort of gives them a meaning to life, a sort of sense of immortality.
And I've had a huge conversation or correspondence with a woman who was clearly abused as a child, and she's projected this abuse onto a vampire fantasy.
The main ingredient with these attacks is supposed to be a sexual one. The incubus is supposed to attack females, and the succubus is supposed to attack males.
Yeah, I mean, vampires are cool though. They are definitely cool. They look good. If you notice in all the in most vampire films and stories, with a male or female, they have a hypnotic trance-like control over their victims, and that is quite sort of sexy.
It's arguable that Christopher Lee and his ilk of vampire were the sexiest people ever to go onto the screen. They had the sort of the James Bond quality almost, that they were irresistible to women. I know there was a lot of telepathy involved and there was a lot of mental power, but the power is a sort of an aphrodisiac anyway to a certain extent.
There is no definite answer, just like you can't prove whether vampires exist or not. It's the power of suggestion that makes it interesting, and it's a combination of myth and imagination that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, or makes you whip around to look behind you in the dark. And perhaps we're not meant to know. I mean, would you want to know if there was a vampire on your doorstep?
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange. Faces come out of...
It was literally like being in a sort of a dream. After I'd witnessed it myself, we had a meeting with the BPOS and we decided to conduct a full-scale investigation into the entity at Highgate Cemetery. And the first thing we decided to do was to check out the cemetery's history and some interesting things really turned up. We found that a figure had been reported back in the 18th century, sorry, the early 19th century, at the end of the 18th century, and it
The members out to one of their picnics at Highgate Cemetery or something, all dressed up in all the fine, all like very gothed up with lace and velvet and frilly shirts and stuff, and I thought, these are the people I want to hang out with. These people look really cool.
Yeah, a lot of people come along expecting us to actually think we are vampires or think vampires exist, and then find it really odd when we go, nah, you'd have to be really mad to think that. I think they have this set idea of someone who's going to sleep all day and only go out at night and say, oh no, I'm so pale, or actually try and drink blood or sleep in coffins, which you might do if you pass out drunk, but probably not your first choice of bed. There's a lot of stigma attached to it. People will just assume you're going to be some mass murdering wannabe vampire. Then they come along, and we've had so many people come along, even people we just picked up from downstairs in the pub, who said, what is going on up there? Seen everyone traipse up, come in for the night, and gone away thinking...
And the Dracula Society is more an academic thing. There's a lot of literary professors and people who know Bram Stoker's Dracula, the book, inside out. And although it was okay, it wasn't really what I was looking for. And then one day I was down at Forbidden Planet, the shop in Tottenham Court Road, and I come across this book, this magazine, this fanzine, called The Velvet Vampire, which was the fanzine of what was then called the Vampire Society. And I flicked through it, and inside was a photograph of...
Again, it was described as a tall, dark figure, but this time it used to disappear mysteriously through the cemetery wall.
So all of these allegedly true cases of vampire, like the Highgate vampire, are going towards making a very powerful and attractive image for those people interested in the occult. But what I didn't realise was how many people are interested in the occult, how many people are interested in vampires. I didn't realise there was such a big scene in London, for example. I went up there the other week to...
And we went along to one of their do's.